My name is Antoni. I've been working as an aviation security officer for nearly 8 years at Red Rock Regional Airport, a small airport in Nevada you've probably never heard of. It's nothing like LAX or JFK, more like a giant bus terminal with a runway and a modest control tower. One terminal, 3 active gates, and one that's been closed for years. Gate 13. I usually take the night shift. Quiet, peaceful, barely any passengers. But ever since the Flight 729 crash 3 months ago, the atmosphere has changed. And I can't forget that night. The night I realised not every passenger truly leaves when their flight departs. Flight 729 was a domestic flight bound for Portland. It departed from Gate 13 at 11:45 p.m. on a stormy night. Less than 15 minutes after takeoff, the tower lost contact. By morning, wreckage was found in the mountains near Ely. No survivors. 86 people dead. The media called it an unusual incident. The black box data was corrupted. The pilot sent no distress signal. But for those of us who were working at the airport that night, especially me, there was something else. Something we never told the public. A few weeks after the crash, strange things began to happen. The CCTV feeds around Gate 13 recorded movement. Shadows, silhouettes, doors opening on their own. I brushed it off at first. Maybe drafts or system glitches. But our security system is modern. Steel doors don't just open by themselves. One night, at exactly 2:13 a.m, the internal phone rang. The caller ID read, Gate 13. I picked up. Antoni speaking. Who is this? No voice. Just breathing. Soft, ragged breathing. And then faintly, a whisper. Delay. The hair on my arm stood up. No flights were scheduled that night, and the phone line at Gate 13 had been disconnected since the crash. I grabbed my flashlight and checked it out. The hallway leading to Gate 13 flickered with failing lights. The floor tiles were dusty, showing no signs of recent traffic. But when I got there, the waiting chairs were full. Luggage, purses, backpacks, all left as if the passengers had just stepped away, or never left at all. I reported everything to my supervisor. They dismissed it as stress. Others joked I'd been watching too many ghost videos online, but I know what I saw. Then things escalated. I started seeing them. Passengers, sitting quietly at Gate 13. An old woman in a round hat, a child clutching a stuffed bear, a man in a leather jacket staring out the terminal window toward the empty tarmac. I called out to them. No response, but as I walked closer, they vanished. Not like someone ducking or sneaking away, like fog dissolving in sunlight. I checked the security footage in the control room, and on the monitor, they were still sitting there. Live feed. I checked again with my own eyes. The seats were empty. It was a quiet night. I was alone in the terminal. My co-worker had called in sick, and with barely any traffic, they didn't send a replacement. Around 11:45 p.m. I heard it, rolling suitcase wheels. That soft, dragging thud-thud echoed through the corridor. I stood up. The sound came from the direction of Gate 13. Step by step, I followed it. And then I saw her, a woman, hair tangled, clothes torn and soaked like she'd crawled from wreckage. Her face was pale, her eyes hollow. She walked slowly, dragging her suitcase, and behind her, dozens followed, silent, dead-eyed, moving like sleepwalkers. I was frozen in place. Not a single one of them looked at me, until the last man in line stopped. Half of his face was burned, and he wore a pilot's uniform. He stared at me, empty eyes, and then his lips moved. We never arrived. And then all the lights went out. Seconds later, the emergency lights kicked in. They were gone. The entire hallway, empty. I stood there, shaking. Back at the control room, the printer suddenly activated. The log printer. It printed a boarding pass. I picked it up. Flight 729 gate, 13 seat, 42 C passenger, Antoni Rivera. I never booked a flight. I never told anyone about this until now. A few weeks later, I resigned. I couldn't do the night shift anymore, but the memory still haunts me. The boarding pass still sits in my drawer. Sometimes I have nightmares. I'm in a dark aircraft cabin surrounded by dripping, muddy passengers. They all turn to look at me. They don't speak, but their silence screams, "Come with us!" I wake up gasping, sirens ringing in my ears, And when I reach for my phone, the time never changes. 11:45 p.m. Red Rock Regional Airport has since shut down Gate 13, but night staff still whisper about shadowy figures near the unused terminal. They say, if you hear suitcase wheels dragging but no footsteps, don't turn around. And if the phone from Gate 13 rings, don't answer. They're just waiting for their next departure. My name is Hala. I've been working as a night janitor for nearly 9 years at Bradshaw Regional Airport, a once bustling international airport in northern Missouri. About 5 years ago, due to financial issues and dwindling passengers, it was downgraded to a domestic airport. Since then, the international terminal has been left to rot, sealed off from daily activity, collecting dust and silence. Everyone working night shifts has heard the stories. The international gates, the immigration inspection hall, and the old restrooms have long been rumoured to be haunted. A little girl's laughter echoing from the women's restroom. A pale woman standing still at Gate 17, vanishing the moment anyone gets too close. Most people refuse to clean there at night. I used to think it was just superstition, until last month when the airport authority announced that Bradshaw would reopen international flights. The cleaning crews were immediately reassigned to restore the old terminal. We were told to scrub everything: toilets, immigration desks, waiting rooms, and boarding gates. I was put in charge of the international sector. Night 1. Immigration restroom. It was 11:42 p.m. when I reached the third floor. The others were assigned to food court and domestic terminals. I was to lightly dust the immigration facilities. The women's restroom was hidden behind a long corridor in the immigration inspection zone. It was dark, damp, and the flickering lights made the shadows dance on the walls. I began scrubbing the sink when I heard it. The water faucet turning on from the last stall. I figured maybe the pipes were still acting up after years of disuse, but when I checked, the faucet was tightly shut. Then I heard the unmistakable sound of small footsteps walking inside the last stall. "Hello?" I called out. Silence. I slowly opened each stall, empty, but in the mirror above the sink I saw something behind me. A small girl, long dark hair covering her face, wearing a plain white dress. When I turned around, nothing. I left without finishing the restroom. Night 2, Gate 17. I wanted to ask for reassignment, but the overtime pay was too good to pass up. That night, I cleaned the boarding gates. Gate 16 was dusty and quiet. Outdated airline posters hung crooked on the windows, peeling with age. Then I reached Gate 17. As I stepped in, the air grew thick and heavy, like I was walking into something that didn't want me there. My footsteps echoed unnaturally loud, and then I saw her. A woman standing behind the glass of the gate. She was facing the runway. Long black hair, pale, perfectly still. I knocked on the glass. "Excuse me, are you okay?" She slowly turned to face me. Her eyes were completely black. Not just dark, but pitch black voids, and as she moved, her joints cracked like dry bones bending the wrong way. I ran. I didn't even clean the rest of the area. Night 3, Immigration. Hall B1. That night, I was assigned to Immigration Waiting Hall B1, located in the lower level of the building. A forgotten space once used for manual document verification. The stairwell creaked with every step. The overhead lights flickered dimly. The air reeked of old rust and something far worse, like the smell of rotting flesh. As I swept the floor, I heard it again. Not footsteps, a heartbeat. Slow at first, then faster. Not mine. It came from the entire room. Then the chairs in the far corner started moving by themselves, as if someone was sitting or standing up. And in the glass partition of the immigration booth, she appeared again. The same woman. But this time, she wasn't alone. The little girl was standing in front of her, holding her hand. They both stared at me, expressionless. The woman opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Only blood. Blood poured from her mouth, her eyes, her nose. The little girl began to cry, but it wasn't a human cry. It sounded like a broken radio, a glitchy, static-filled sob. Words I couldn't understand, in a language that wasn't human. I reported everything, but of course, no one believed me. They said I was overworked, hallucinating. But then something strange happened. Mike, our night supervisor, came to me pale as a ghost. He said he found bloody child-sized handprints on the mirror of the immigration restroom during his inspection. Others began having similar experiences, shadows passing by on the CCTV that left no trace, lights turning on and off in the locked gates. The international terminal reopened as planned a few weeks later. They decorated it nicely, repainted the walls, replaced the furniture, but the soul of that place stayed the same. I quit before the reopening. Sometimes, even now, I still see her, in my dreams, in reflections. Sometimes when I turn on the faucet at night, I swear it was already running, and I still hear the laughter of a little girl, a strange, broken laugh. Bradshaw International Airport has come back to life, but so did everything else inside it. My name is Alex Romero, and I've worked the night shift as a cargo handler at Wilkes-Patterson International Airport, Michigan, for almost 5 years. It's constantly moving, especially for freight and air cargo. The night shift was always eerie, especially in East Cargo Warehouse, the oldest part of the airport. It's a dimly lit building from the 1970s, reeking of rust and damp concrete. Fluorescent lights flicker endlessly, and some corners are so cold and dark you feel like something's always watching. But that night was different. I walked into the control room as usual. Bobby, my shift partner, handed me a warm cup of coffee and a clipboard. "You've got a body tonight," he said casually, like he was talking about spare parts. I frowned. Normally human remains are only processed during the day, never during night hours. But for some reason, tonight was an exception. According to the manifest, the casket had arrived that evening and was scheduled for a 5 a.m. cargo flight to Dallas. "Name?" I asked. "Martha Antilli, 73, came in from Arkansas." There wasn't much else. No medical notes, just a simple barcode and destination. I was told the casket had already been placed in Cold Storage Unit 3B, deep in the eastern wing. That's when things started to feel different. Unit 3B is located at the farthest end of the East Cargo Wing. To get there, I had to push a stainless steel trolley down a narrow hallway, just wide enough for one person. The lights along the corridor flickered worse than usual, and the hum of the old ventilation system made it hard to tell if the hallway was really empty. When I reached the steel door of Unit 3B, it felt heavier than normal, like it didn't want to be opened. Inside, the air was icy, the kind of cold that bites through your gloves. The casket was there, pure white with a glossy finish wrapped in clear industrial plastic. No flowers, no ribbons, just silence. I leaned in to scan the barcode. As I placed my hand on the side of the casket, I heard it, a soft scratching sound coming from inside. I froze. Not loud, just the faint, unmistakable sound of fingernails scraping against wood. It lasted maybe 2 seconds. Then, nothing. I told myself it was nothing. "A rat, maybe," I muttered, but I knew better. This was a sealed, refrigerated unit. Rats don't make it in here. After placing the casket on the staging floor, I returned to the CCTV room to log the footage and verify the transfer, standard procedure. I scrubbed through the feed from camera number 17, which faced the staging area. It showed me clearly, wheeling the casket into position and leaving. But a few minutes later, something happened. The casket moved. It wasn't dramatic, just a slow, steady shift to the right by about 6 inches. But it was undeniable. It wasn't a vibration, no draft. The floor is solid concrete, and no one else was there. I rewound the footage, watched it again. It moved, like someone inside was pushing against the lid. Panic set in. I locked the screen and rushed back to the staging area. The casket was still there, but now there were scratch marks on the inside of the plastic wrap. 5 long gouges, like from fingernails. I radioed Bobby, no answer. As I made my way back through the hallway, the lights suddenly cut out. All of them. At once, total darkness swallowed the corridor, leaving only the dull, distant hum of the ancient HVAC system. I turned on my phone flashlight and moved quickly. That's when I saw her, a woman, standing at the end of the hallway, facing away from me, long white hair falling down her back. She wore a faded house dress, looked like something out of the 1960s. She didn't move, didn't twitch, she just stood there. I froze. My instincts screamed at me to run, but before I could turn around, she was standing directly in front of me. Her face was bluish pale, eyes bulging from their sockets. Her lips moved silently, like she was whispering something only she could hear. Then she reached out and touched my chest. Her hand was ice cold. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Then, everything went black. I woke up lying on the cold warehouse floor, disoriented and sweating. Bobby found me. He was pale as hell. "Jesus, Alex, you've been out for nearly an hour." I couldn't speak. My throat was dry and tight. I didn't know how to explain what happened. I still don't. We rushed back to the staging area. The casket was gone. The barcode scanner showed no record of it being checked out. No departure logged. It was simply gone. We pulled up the CCTV footage again. Everything from 1:30 a.m. onward was missing. All the files were black, corrupted, as if the cameras just stopped existing for an hour. Before our shift ended, the supervisor came in. He told us the shipment of Martha and Tilly had been cancelled. The family had identified inconsistencies in the paperwork, something about the body not matching the deceased. But here's what chilled me to my core. There was no record of a shipment ever arriving. No delivery log, no barcode in the system, no manifest. The paper Bobby handed me earlier? Now just a blank sheet of paper. I resigned a week later, not because of fear, because I started hearing things at night. From the direction of Unit 3B, sometimes quiet laughter, sometimes scratching, and sometimes my name being whispered. If you ever work the night shift in cargo, don't talk to passengers who aren't in the manifest. And if you hear something inside a sealed casket, leave it alone.